Hi, All Agent here, and we are going to do a video after the speed boost update. We're going to use a bot that's been minorly altered. I built it during Buffgate. If anybody's been here long enough to remember Buffgate, this bot was built during that because my bots were melting and I didn't know what in the hell was going on, and I finally came up with this thing, so it's pretty darn tough. It held its own during Buffgate against buff players, so we swapped out two small thrusters on the front for two large ones, and I added a couple forward-facing thruster cheetahs. It already had a couple thrusters on the back side for side-to-side movement. As you can see, the nerfs that Copters got don't really mean anything with those small minor changes. I removed the power module that was on it, but that was unnecessary anyway because by the time I needed it most of the time, I've already dealt so much damage that I need to heal and I can't stay in the battle. So anyway, took a couple hits from Rail Impaler there. We got to the middle point quick, but looks like they stopped us on our near point, which is very, very common now. You'll get these really fast bots that can fly really high, and they equip Lommels, and then they'll be over at your near point sometimes before you get to midpoint. So it's actually kind of game breaking because the ability to navigate these small maps so quickly in a game mode where you have to control those points, it's just broken for some bots to be able to go 500 or 600 miles per hour, and most ground units are limited to roughly 200. You could get to like 230, 240 with some wheels and hovers, but generally speaking, 200, 250 is going to be your limit on the ground, but you've got easily 350 in the air on a good strong build too. We're not talking about a fragile mass of thrusters. And you've got guys like this guy, he's probably doing about 700. He's a little more fragile, but he can still get around very, very quickly and manage these points. So you're going to take Lommels from two different enemies, packing them. As you can see, he's not using that much CPU, and he's very, very fast. He's able to navigate the map very quickly, and he's tanky enough to take a few hits and then get out of there with the speed. You don't have to be strong, so burning CPU on movement parts and speed boost is completely irrelevant because your ability to get away so quickly is far better than armor. It's superior to armor. So there's no trade-off there. Getting away is definitely better than armor. But we're going to do our best in this match. I think the team's going to try to surrender. I vote no every time. I'm going to keep engaging these guys and at least try to keep our near point. We're going to take a few hits. They managed to wipe out our rotor blades. We're using rare rotor blades. We're not using the assault blades, but we're not using the bottom level blades either. And see, this guy manages to get over there. He just bum rushes base really fast. Luckily, he falls apart pretty easily if you shoot him in the middle, but you can tell there's no effort put into that build. This build here that I'm fighting isn't as fast, but it's had more effort put into it. It's got some E-shields on it. It's got plenty of wings. It's got redundancy, and it's got small lock-on missile launchers, and it has a little redundancy there, too. And as you can see, it can fly really, really high. Even if it weren't for the Impaler, I couldn't go nearly that high in this build, so there's not a lot I can do except keep forcing a stalemate, get back into my shield and heal, which is what they're doing, except they're able to do it over 4/5 of the map, and I'm basically trapped back by my shield bubble trying to do that with a reasonably boosted copter. So my personal opinion is that the game is pretty broken right now with this update. There's no need to buff air at all. The nerf to copters, as you can see with my copter, it was just a token nerf. You throw 100 more CPU worth of stuff on there, and you've got a better and more maneuver copter than before. This copter is faster than it was. Probably could have got away with not adding a couple more of those thrusters and just going with the larger propellers, but it still does good damage. It's got a lot of armor. It's very, very maneuverable. It's jumpy. I can make the rail miss me still. and it moves at somewhere between 200 and 210 through the air. So it's reasonably quick in pre-update terms. It's hover. It's the speed of a hovercraft, a decent hover too at that. Pre-update, but now it's slow. There's no way it's going to be able to keep up with any of these bots. So I'm going to have to charge in and get face to face with this guy. Let him bounce off of me a little bit with his Teslas. Luckily, he's not very well built and they're easy to shoot off. I've played matches where there were sprinters that had a mass of thrusters behind them, and some that just had a couple of props and a small number of thrusters tucked inside of them. And on the ice map, it's very common to have those guys round a corner and get to you before you've even fired enough shots to de-blade all their Tesla blades. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it but try to run, and they're so much faster than you that running doesn't work either. So, like I said earlier, the game's pretty broken. We're taking some more Impaler shots along with those Lommels. Like I said, this bot was built during Buffgate, but there's been a lot of game changes. Luckily, it's still a pretty decent bot. It can hold its own to this day, because Buffgate was earlier this year, so it's survived through quite a few major updates since then with only minor changes. Like I said, I just upgraded the props on the front and added 2 thrusters, so that's 100 more CPU, 50 per prop. Plus 28 and 28, so 156 more CPU. But I also removed the power module, so our net CPU increase was only 56 CPU, and it's better than it was before. So we had an increase in performance for slightly more CPU use. It seems like a great trade-off to me. That was no nerf to copters in my eyes. That was a token nerf. It was so they could say, look, we nerfed copters, but now this is the problem. Copters are still going to be a problem if this is ever fixed, and I expect it to be. This is just so blatantly broken right now that even Free Jam can't let this continue. So we're going to hunt that guy down, kill him, and wait for him to respawn. He'll be back in no time, but there's a 10-second respawn, and probably only takes him 5 seconds to go across the map. So bots like that, it's actually better to try to keep alive and on the ropes rather than kill them. It's better to stall their respawn so they don't get to come back. But obviously we can't do that. The enemies are numerous. Most of them are flying, and that very low CPU rail Impaler packs a hell of a punch when he hits. I can only take a couple, 3 or 4 of those before I'm pretty much crippled. So we're going to hunt this other Lommel aircraft. He's not quite as fast as the one with the triple mini Lommels, but he's still fast enough to cause problems. And this guy, if I can get a lucky hit, he's got a weak spot somewhere in his chassis, but it's a lucky hit that I have to get. I can't you see, his damage boost has got to be pretty high to deal that much damage from a volley of Lommels. I've got a really good health rating on this spot. It's no tank. It's no 5 million hit point tank by any means, but it is quite tanky for an aircraft. So the guy's got low CPU. He's got very high speed. He's got powerful weapons, high redundancy. It's just not balanced at all. This game is pretty much broken right now. There's a hit from that Impaler. We're going to engage him because I know I can tank at least 3 hits from that thing. Even center mass. This bot was built to break, to where if it gets split in half, it's not actually going to die like a lot of bots. They get split in half, split their CPU. It's not going to die if that happens. As you could see earlier, I was reduced to like a rotor or 2 and a propeller, and I think maybe an E-plate on there, and that was it. And still alive, still kicking. So that was also one of the downsides to using that power modules. I didn't gain anything because usually by the time I needed it with my tap firing and aim, I was fighting like a tank or something, and I'd sustained enough damage to where if I would stay in combat and use that power module, I would probably either be crippled or die. So I would have to take cover to not only regenerate my health, but regenerate my power bar. So that the power module, like I said, was no loss to remove. So I gained 100 CPU back. But anyway, we're just going to hang around here and just try to make sure they don't take our shield down too much. Like I said, these guys, they're so fast, they just come out of nowhere. It's a constant assault on our near point. We can kind of hold mid, but we're doing a poor job of that too. There's just not a lot of hope for this game, so I'm going to camp out in this area and at least keep this rail and their fast aircraft, keep the rail busy and keep their fast aircraft from finishing the cap on our near point if it's at all possible. And as you can see, I've got less than half my bot left, snapped in half there in the middle, and I've got my E-plates still. And we are actually still with full maneuverability, and we have full firepower because we've got, oh no, we've only got 3 guns. We don't have full firepower. But again, the guy with the Llamas is back already, hit me with him, so I'm going to have to go back in the base, and we lose our near point. It's just, it's a constant onslaught of enemies with this whole new speed boost mechanic. It's just way out of balance. So the match is going to be over here soon, but again, we're going to engage this rail. I got some help from a lock-on missile launcher user, and we took him out, so he won't be as much of a pain in the butt for a little bit. If you noticed a couple times, if you're actually paying attention to what I'm doing, I was changing my attention from damaged enemies that I could have finished off to enemies that were threatening the point, which is always good strategy. But we lost that match. We actually didn't do too bad given the circumstances. I did top damage, middle of the pack on objectives, but a little over number 4 on score, so that's not bad for a loss. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.